SAP environment. Before we start our session, I would like to invite Committee President Mr. Suhas Paranjpe to give opening remarks.
Yes, good morning to all. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Namrata. Good morning to all. And Technology Initiative Committee keeps on arranging the Saturday morning meetings on a very live subjects. It could be working in the environment of Tally. It can be working in the environment of SAP. So today we have selected a topic which is a very relevant topic of audit in SAP environment, wherein Mr. Jayesh Desai, with his large experience, hands-on experience with this, he is going to share, and this is going to be part 1. So there is going to be part 2 also. Something which is not concluded today will be covered in part 2. So as far as SAP is concerned, I will just share my experience. It is not, we have done an audit in SAP environment, but we were the parties, as a statutory auditor, we were the parties in SAP implementation. And that time we realized that if you wish to implement any ERP and SAP more particularly, then the management and the CFO intervention and a continuous support is very much required if you want to implement software like SAP in an effective manner. So the case in which we were the auditors, it was implemented in a very good manner because the CFO himself was involved. There was a core team involved. So it was implemented very well. And then we had a very different experience of auditing under SAP environment. There are so many basic concepts of audit which were differently looked at under the SAP environment. That is what my experience in auditing in SAP. So today, Jayesh Bhai is going to share with us important aspects of audit in SAP environment. And it will be very relevant because recently CA final results have come. So the candidates must have joined in different companies. They must have joined in different firms, and they have to do audit under SAP environment as a audit people or as a accounts people in the company. And it will be very relevant. It is a right time to have this kind of a seminar today or workshop today. So I welcome Jayesh Bhai, and I hand over the proceedings to Namrata. Thank you, Namrata. Thank you, Jayesh Bhai.
Thank you, Suhas. With this, let me introduce our speaker for today's session. Mr. Jayesh Desai is a fellow cost accountant and registered valuer. His area of specialization includes SAP PICO consulting and training, business valuation, financial modeling, product costing, profitability, and pricing analytics. He has 25 plus years of corporate experience working with large MNCs and Indian corporate in finance, controlling, SAP implementation, data analytics, strategic leadership, leading global teams and business transformation project. With this, let me welcome our speaker for today's session, Jayesh Desai, with a big round of virtual applause.
Thanks, Namrata, and good morning, all of you. And thanks for a very nice introduction. And thanks, Suhasji, for sharing your experience on SAP. I'm really glad that I got this opportunity to present my experience working in SAP environment, and especially on the topic of audit in SAP environment. So, and in this, it will be more of a hands-on approach that I will be following. You'll see less of slides. There are few slides, but that is more for all of us to get a common understanding, and then we move forward into SAPs. So my focus will be less presentation, but more of actual hands-on. Namrata has already given good brief about myself. So currently I practice in these 3 areas, of valuation analytics and SAP training. So you can visit my website jayesdesai.com and know more about the profile. If you're interested in SAP, then you can come to SAP Skills Training. And this is a place where I'm trying to develop more offerings for working professionals who have to manage work, life, and growth. So if you're interested, you can look at some of the videos like in business controlling. There are these program videos, and there's one more section in SAP videos where you can learn more on SAP. If you're interested in SAP as a career, you can read this blog. Or if you want to know about FICO certification or the program, you can look at this. Okay, so with this brief, I will start with our main course. So audit in SAP environment. And today we are going to cover some of the key aspects of SAP so that before you do the audit side, you understand the system. If you have an understanding of the system, you can do audit better. From an audit perspective, you have a very strong domain experience, both on the auditing standards and various regulatory requirements. It is more about understanding the system that will help you in doing your audit work better. And that's where I think I'll focus my session today to help you understand how SAP is designed, configured, what are the business processes, master data, transaction and reports, risk in SAP environment. We have about 1.5 hour or 1 hour, 20 minutes time. So I will remain focused on few areas within SAP so that at least in those areas you can build your knowledge or understanding. And maybe in future sessions, we can cover more areas as we go forward. So these are 3 pillars of enterprise system, and it can be any system. It can be SAP or Tally or Business One, Oracle, Microsoft, any. So first is the confidentiality. It is called CIA. The acronym is much easier to remember. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So confidentiality is all about need to know. Is the access to system or information based on need to know, or anyone can access anything in the system? Because if the confidentiality is maintained, there is a higher level of confidence on the output of the system. The second is the integrity. Integrity is, can you trust the output that system is giving? Can you trust your system? Can the CFO who is looking at the financial statement trust that the numbers are reliable and he can take a decision based on it? Can the auditors rely on the reports they are looking at? Can the end user themselves, they think that the system is giving a good output and they can rely? You can easily see lack of trust in a system if people are maintaining Excel files, or they say, my system is not giving me this output, so I will have to rely on something else. So which would show lower trust in the system. And these are like when you go for an audit, these are very early signs that you need to try to perhaps capture so that you can build your audit program on it. The third is availability. Is the system available anytime, anywhere? Now, for last couple of 2 decades at least, we have been relying on the systems. Think of banking system. What will happen if ATM don't work for 10 minutes? Or the leading bank websites don't work? Or you are not able to transfer funds? Your Twitter and Facebook and all this social media will be buzzed with messages that the systems are down for this banking company. And that is going to bring a lot of disrepute to the company. So from a enterprise system designing perspective and also from an audit perspective, confidentiality, integrity, and availability is very important. And I'm just using one or two slides to build a context before I get into the real topic, so that we are all on the same page. And when auditors go and audit systems, they have onerous responsibilities for information systems, even though they may not be technologically competent. But Companies Act, various auditing standards, ISOs, they have laid down a lot of responsibilities on auditors for information systems audit. And so I'm not going to go deep into this to tell you, what are those requirements. You all are very strong with your domain, and you know that these are the requirements. And as an auditor, we audit the controls. So we will see whether the system has enough of preventive controls. Can system prevent errors, mistakes, misappropriation, fraud, or any other such event? So no system is built foolproof. So there may be vulnerabilities. So is there a system in place that can detect those vulnerabilities? And so the risk management is in place so that if something cannot be prevented, it can be detected. And if it is detected, then is corrective action taken or not taken? If corrective action is taken, then you can say that system and controls are working fine. But if not, then you have a red flag on the system. So on the one side, you have this CIA, the other side are these controls and responsibilities that auditors have to check. And from there, some basic groundwork, let us move to SAP ERP. So we understand SAP ERP better. Now, in this session, whenever I'm going to use the word SAP, it would mean SAP ERP. Because SAP has a lot of different products. It has got SAP CRM. It has got also Business One, which is another application for small and mid-sized enterprises. There are a lot of products on the analytics side. So I'm going to focus on ERP, and that's where, as an auditor, we are more concerned. So SAP ERP is an off-the-shelf product which can be configured and customized as per business requirements. It's very important line to understand. It is not something which is built grounds up. It is a ready-made product. You take it from the shelf and implement it. You have to configure. For example, you may have to create the legal entities. You may have to create a plant. Those are very standard kind of configuration that SAP has provided. There's a lot of controls built standard. But there are times when certain requirements come from business which is not there in the standard pack. So you may have to customize it. When I say customize, means you'll have to use an ABAPer or a developer to develop some programs, some tables, some screens to build processes. So that's what SAP is. It is not grounds up written anytime. So that's where the biggest advantage of SAP is. Standard SAP can be implemented at a very less time. We spend more time in testing the system, training people, and preparing for the go live. If it is a standard configuration, then it does not take much time. More time goes when you have to customize, because when you are customizing it for that company specific requirement. And if company specific, so what will be the difference? Standard SAP requirement would have been tested by companies across the world, by hundreds and thousands of users. So it is very well tested configuration. But when you do customization, it needs to be thoroughly tested, documented before it goes to production. And that's where it's very important to understand that what you are looking at is customized or it is standard SAP. Okay, that was just a brief about SAP that we should keep in mind. You must have all heard about HANA. Okay, and there are times when the people use S4 HANA and HANA, in a very synonymous way. So you need to ask question if someone is using this word, whether you mean HANA as an appliance or you mean S4 HANA. So HANA, SAP HANA, whenever someone uses that term, it means it refers to an appliance. Appliance is like a server. So HANA is that high performance analytic appliance. And so you can have a non-HANA system and HANA system. So HANA-based system have a lot of advantages from a technical perspective, which then translates into better end user experience. So if you are to compare the non-HANA and the HANA system, the first fundamental thing is the storage. You must have used laptops with rotating disks, and which makes noise, and the fans also moves at a very fast speed at times when there is a very high load of processing. And this is because the disk in the laptop can rotate at about 5,500 to max 7,500 RPM. Okay, and so that is the a bottleneck on fetching data from the disk. On a very good high-end server, a disk can rotate at say 12,000 RPM. So that is the maximum speed. So it means that the data which can be fetched is limited or has a limitation on the spinning of the disk. So it can only fetch data up to this 12,000 RPM. So which in other words means that your programs can be written only as efficient as the disk can operate. And so all the downstream things like your processors and everything gets impacted because of that disk. I'm sure many of you would have experienced the solid state drive laptops. So which does not have a rotating disk. And you will see the performance difference, the speed at which the Windows comes up, or if you are, say, editing a movie, then the speed at which it can be rendered. So this happens very fast because there is no spinning disk. The same issue is with enterprise storage devices. In most of the enterprise system, we had the spinning hard disk. And over a period of time, the size of data and the requirement to generate report, it had increased. So, which is where there was a limitation with spinning hard disk. Now, SAP has instead of spinning hard disk, it has brought in the blade servers and the in-memory capability. So the cost of RAM over last 10 years has reduced substantially. So if you look at your mobile phone, now it comes with a 12 MB RAM. Okay, earlier you did not have even half MB RAM a few years back. So the cost of RAM has reduced. So SAP is now leveraging the lower cost of RAM along with the blade servers, which is like a SSD, to improve the fetching of data from the storage, and which is where the biggest difference comes between HANA and the non-HANA system. The second difference is on the database side. The non-HANA system has a row and columnar database, which is very much like an Excel file. So in Excel file, you have a rows and columns, and you, when you have to build a database, you will define the columns and the rows. Rows will have the data. So long as the writing is concerned, it works very well. The issue comes with fetching data. As I said, the data over the last 10 years have increased. Now you have big data also. So which means the columnar database, the row and column database has a limitation when it comes from reading the data. Writing data is fine, but when it has to read the data, it takes a lot of time because it has to go by column and rows, and which is where HANA has innovated the columnar database. And columnar database just has one column and it reads to the column. And there's a lot of technology involved in that, so I won't get into the hardcore technology part. But the memory read is much faster by 1 million times than the conventional, database hard disk when you have the columnar database. So combining the storage and combining the database gave a very potent solution to the business problem with growing data size. And now the storage and database problems are resolved. The processor had to be refined, had to be developed better, because earlier the processor was designed keeping in mind the 12,000 RPM. Now you have to design keeping in mind the large RAM calculation or the SSD drive. So the processors were designed to enable the parallel processing, multi-core architecture, and all that. In the non-HANA environment, we had OLAP and OLTP, which is like the transaction processing system, and then every night you will have jobs that will bring data from SAP into a business warehouse. So with HANA, that layer is eliminated. The speed is so good that you can directly write reports on the system, on the transaction processing system. And the data model got simplified. Now you can have lesser tables. So that is more of an architecture side. When you have a spinning disk, you require more tables so that the read can be better. With blade server with RAM, speed was not an issue, so the data model architecture improved. So this is HANA. But what is now S4HANA? S4HANA is ERP on top of HANA. So earlier, can all of you mute yourself so that the background noise is not heard? So in the non-HANA system, like an ECC, you have the Oracle database, which is a row and column. You have the storage device, which is a spinning disk. But in a S4HANA, you have ERP application and which sits on HANA appliance. So HANA appliance has all these advantages which I have just mentioned. So which makes S4HANA a very good candidate for future digital transformation of the organization. It was just a brief on HANA, S4HANA, what is the difference between them and the non-HANA system, so that you all are clear with it. So let's start with the core SAP. I use this diagram to help understand how the control structure is designed within SAP. The top layer is the client. And when I go into SAP, I'll show you what is a client. So, and at the bottom layer, you see this one. There's a module. Some of you who work on SAP, they know that SAP is designed by a modular structure. So in an organization, you have different functions, like a finance department or controlling department. And then you have production department, sales and marketing, quality. So SAP has also designed modules for each of these functions, so they can meet their objectives. The objective of finance department is different compared to production department. So both will require very different kind of application. So the modular structure in SAP caters to that requirement. But it is also integrated. By integration, I mean whenever there are transactions happening in one module which is relevant to some other module, like goods issued, raw material issued for production, it is relevant for FICO. So there is an integration so that transactions can flow into finance and controlling. So this is where the business processes comes into picture. So at the bottom layer, SAP is modular with transactions in business process, and at the top layer it is the client. And in between is the whole configuration where we design SAP, and the master data where we define more repeatable kind of data, like that of a customer or vendor or bill of material, metal master, and all that. And there is a lot of relevance for each of this. Thinking from how can you relate it to your say your company in which you're working, or your own client whom you're auditing. So if your auditee is just single legal entity, then that legal entity is the client. But if you think of larger groups where they may have multiple legal entities, and those legal entities are in different different businesses. So for example, one company is in transport business, second company is in food, third can be in retail. So the client would then refer to the entire group. And the importance of client from a control perspective is quite immense, because you can define certain objects at the client level that can be used uniformly across the whole group. Take, for example, Tata Group. Now, if Tata Group defines chart of account at the client level, then the same chart of account can be used by all the legal entities in the Tata Group. So this ensures that there is uniformity as far as the financial controls are concerned, because chart of account forms the basis for financial controls. So just like chart of account, there are many other objects which are defined at the client level, and that way it has a lot of control implications. And we'll look at them as we go forward. Enterprise structure would mean the company code or the legal entities, the purchase organization, sales organization, your business area, profit centers, and how they are related to each other. So if you have, say, multiple legal entity and multiple plants, SAP would like to understand how your plants are related with the legal entity, because each plant has a relationship with the legal entity. Okay, so that is just some theory, but one last slide on this theory is the control structure, further explained in this diagram. So I'm taking example of a very large group, maybe a Tata Group or Reliance Group, which has large number of entities, and they operate across different regions of the world. So in this example, IDS is such a multinational company which has presence in Europe, North America, Asia Pacific, China, and many other regions of the world. And within Europe, it operates in Germany, France, and then it has got within each country, it has got its organization, functional organization. And then, so there are different positions here, and the company codes are here at this country level. Each company operates in multiple divisions like pumps, paints, pharmaceuticals. Okay, and they may have different sales organization. And then there are plants for each of these divisions, and each plant has a storage location, and within storage location are the warehouses, and within warehouse there are like bins and racks. So whenever there is a movement of material happening from a rack in the storage location of a plant, which is at the lowest level in the hierarchy, it can be rolled up and reported upwards at the highest level, which is the group level. So it doesn't matter how large is your group, or it's just a single legal entity, doesn't matter. Each and every transaction can be rolled up to the highest level of the client or at the group level. So it can be consolidated for group reporting. You can also do transfer pricing for the profit center reporting. So there are a lot of those things can be done, and you can do better controlling up to the transaction level. So the financial controls are better managed with this kind of structure. So let me log into SAP. I'll just close the screen first. I'm sure all of you would be able to see my login pad. So this is SAP login pad. It is a thin client, and it has got connections to different servers. So it is possible for me to have connections created for any number of SAP server. Some of this server are in UK. This server is one of my client server, and these two servers are with another vendor in India. So all different servers, I can still have it on the same login pad. And this is a SAP S/4HANA. This enter ECC. I log into ECC. Now, if you see, this is where the client comes at the very entry level. And perhaps this is the only place where you will see client. You will not see client in any transaction screens, or even in most of the configuration screen, you don't see client. But client is maintained internally in SAP. And all the structures that I talked about is automatically rolled up at the client level as you define it. Okay, so for those who are completely new to SAP, I'll just have a quick navigation so that you understand. So at the bottom level, you can see different options. This is the client 800 where we are logged in, my username. And as we go through different transactions, you will see the transaction code appearing here and the response time. Okay, so SAP is designed by transaction code, and it doesn't work based on the keyboard links, which many other software works. So you want to operate SAP screen using the shortcut on your keyboard. On the left-hand side is the SAP menu. So you can also set up favorite transactions here. The two most important one are logistics and accounting. This is human resources, and this is more for IT. Within accounting, it's a very modular structure, as I've said. So got financial accounting and controlling. There are others, not so important, but important if you're implementing those components like project systems or real estate management. So most of the companies implement financial accounting and controlling, and the others are optional. So within financial accounting, you will have the general ledger, account receivable, account payable, banks, and fixed assets. The most important sub-modules within SAP. And then in controlling, you'll have cost center, cost element accounting, internal orders, product costing, profitability analysis, and profit center accounting. General ledger is the main ledger, and then account receivable, accounts payable, and fixed assets are the subsidiary ledger. And which means that the vendors, customers, and individual assets are maintained separately. But then there is a way SAP will update the general ledger. So general ledger can give out trial balance anytime, which is completely balanced with no errors. And if you open up the logistics, you'll see the metals management, sales and distribution, production. So the other operational side of the business. And you can expand this further to the lowest level when you come to the transaction. And this is the level at which the T code. So this is the T code. Okay. And if you open up the general ledger, then document entry, and you can get down to the transaction code. So once you have the transaction code known, you can also enter it in this small box, and you can execute the transaction. In SAP, you can also open multiple screens. So I can create the session, and I can use the T code here, FB50. Now I get into the transaction screen. So this way you can, or you can also double click this and you can get into the transaction screen. So both ways you can work. You don't need to remember T codes because the screen is very logically defined based on what you want to do. If you want to get into, say, accounting, and within accounting, general ledger, within general ledger, you want to see an account, then come here. If you want to see a master data, come here. If you want to get into a specific document, then you get here. So depending upon your objective, you can do. Over a period of time, you'll remember some of the T codes, and you'll be able to navigate into SAP directly through the T codes without going through the menu. So which is what most of the experienced users do. They use T codes and find it much faster. But while you're learning, you can use this hierarchy, and you can reach to the transaction level. Come to system status. It gives you some more information about this system. So this is the user ID. And then the database system is SQL. And the operating system is Windows NT. So it gives you some more additional information about this system. So let me get into the transaction screen and start from here so that you understand how the transactions are processed. And we will also see how this structure is maintained in SAP. Now, I've drawn out this triangle more from a diagrammatic representation. You won't see a triangle here, but then you'll see the layers. So right now, I'm in FICO, and I'm executing a transaction, which is FB50. Okay, so I'll put a document date. The document date is the date which appears on the document. And this is the posting date, the date in which I am posting. Currency INR is defaulted because my company code 0016 is a Indian company, and I've set the currency as INR. But at the document level, I can also post in US dollar, because just assume that I have an invoice which I'm paying in US dollar. Okay, I can enter a text here. And then the GL account. So when I do a backspace, I can see list of accounts here. I can pick up one account, debit. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this is because as an auditor, we also need to understand the process to see how the process is working. And then only we can design our audit better. So I'm using $450 and press enter. So this yellow means SAP is giving me a warning that GL account 416300 is relevant to tax, check code. Okay, so in this account, somewhere I have made that this account is relevant for tax, but it is just giving me a warning. Warning means it will allow me to pass, but it just informs me. Okay, so I'll press enter again. Now it gives me a red message. So this is an error. So account 416300 requires an assignment to a CO object. Now, why it requires a CO object is because the controlling has been implemented. If the controlling module is implemented, it will require you to enter either an Intel order or a cost center or any of these objects, which SAP treats it as a CO object. Okay, so I'll double click this line and go into the cost center. I'll check which are the cost centers available for my company code. So now I press enter and again it says it is relevant to tax. I let it go. So it's again giving me a warning. Now I will simulate. So it says again, warning is relevant to text. So it is reminding me again and again that it is, there's a text relevance, which perhaps you're forgetting. Posting is only possible with a zero balance. Now this is green, but if I press, it will not allow me to go. So if I try to simulate, it will not. Okay, it will not accept only a debit. So I will enter 400. And I'll simulate. So now it says posting is only possible with a zero balance. Correct the document. So which means it is a basic accounting principle that your debit and credit should be equal. And SAP is not allowing me to do that. So I'll press, put a star here, press enter. Now it will copy 450, or even I can enter 450, but we can also use star, and then I'll simulate. Again, warning, I'll skip it. Okay, so it gives me a simulation of the entry, which I can first see myself before I post it. Posting will then freeze this entry into the database. So right now it is not in the database, it is just a preview. So I can check the entry before I post. It gives me the posting key, the debit and credit, the account number, and the amount. So I will post this now. Now it has generated a document number 10043, posted in company code 0016. Now this document number is unique for this particular company code and for fiscal year. It cannot be deleted in SAP. So that way there is a very solid control over the documents that get created in SAP. Want to see this document? Come to display. You see it is in US dollar. The currency is US dollar, even though my company code currency is in INR. So the document is posted in US dollar. I can come here and I can see my local currency, which is INR, and it converts INR, US dollar into INR. And then my company is part of a European group. So the holding company is in Europe. So their currency is in Euro. And I have reporting requirement in Euro. So SAP also stores the transaction value in Euro so that without any error, I can get the translation, whether it in US dollar or in INR or in Euro. There are objects that gets determined automatically. Cost center we have entered, but profit center gets determined based on the cost center that we have entered. The document number, which I had already shown you, the document date, which we had entered posting date, and the period is 12. So period has been determined based on the posting date. This is internally determined based on the configuration which we have done. Similarly, fiscal year is also determined. If you come to this hat, it will give you additional information about this entry. The first information is the document type. It is SA. SA is a GL account posting document type. So what SAP is doing is it classifies different types of document. This is from a control perspective and also from an information perspective. For example, if you have a customer invoice, then it won't be SA, it will be something else. Similarly, if you have a material movement, then it will be something else. So that way, each and every transaction is classified in SAP based on document type. And here is the transaction exchange rate, which has come from the table which I maintain in the configuration. And then the BKPF. This is another important from an audit perspective to know that this is an accounting document. And when I post other document, I'll show you how does this changes. This is BKPF and it shows accounting document, which means it has been posted in the financial accounting module. It has been entered by JS01. This is the entry date, the posting date, the document date, the translation date, and the timestamp. So each and every information is available and has been captured. So what we looked at is financial accounting. So within module, we have the transaction. Okay, and if you double click this and click this, you get into the master data. Okay, so this master data defines the bank account and it classifies the bank account. It gives it a number, unique number, and then there are this control data that by default it is in INR. And then the field status group. So this is where the master data will control the transactions based on you can define which are the screen field that are mandatory and which are optional. So you must have seen there were a lot of screen fields when I was posting, and you can define whether it is a required entry or an optional entry. This is for the control on the transaction entry. There are times when certain fields have to be posted so that from a downstream perspective, the reporting or the controls are better. And so those fields can be made mandatory. And SAP will then force you with an error message if you are not entering the value in that field. So what we had posted is a bank entry, so it is not does not have any required entry. So when I click on this and press enter, and this is also a master data GL account for water. Okay, but it is a general GL account and it is a P&L statement account type. So which means it is a P&L account. And if you see the other account, which I had shown you earlier, so this is a balance sheet account. So SAP controls which accounts are balance sheet and which are P&L account. And this cannot be changed, the data has already been posted. So here, the text category is defined, which is why it was forcing me to enter a text code. And posting without text is allowed. So it was giving me a warning message. Otherwise, it would have made it an error message, and I would have been forced to enter a text code. Similarly, there is a different field status group here. You can make this, you can select one of this field as mandatory, so that at the time of entry, user will be forced to enter. But again, this is all part of designing. You can't just do it based on your whims and fancy. It has to be done as part of the overall design of SAP. Certain fields are to be made mandatory because they may be important from a control perspective or important from a reporting perspective. If certain fields which are really not important, you need not make it mandatory. You can just keep it optional. So user may enter if the information is available, or they can bypass the warning message. So what we looked at is the transaction which is happening in a FICO module, and also the master data. So master data is exercising some amount of control over the transaction. For example, I showed you the text field, which was controlling the transaction when I was posting in the FB50. And similarly, there are field status group, and then the classification of account as P&L and balance sheet. So all these controls are exercised by master data. And then master data and transaction is also controlled by configuration, which is where the next layer is this one. So usually an end user does not have access to the configuration, but I do have. I can type SPRO, or I can click on this customizing, and I can go into customizing. So if you remember in the document, I had shown you, so I'll take one example of a configuration. So I had shown you this fiscal year. So this is the setting in of fiscal year in SPRO, which is the configuration. Okay, it is also called IMG, implementation guide. So maintain fiscal year variant. So this is where we will define the fiscal year. This is all designed based on the company's requirement. Some companies follow calendar year Jan to December. Some companies follow April to March. So you can define it based on that. Some have year dependencies and some have calendar year dependencies. So in some companies, your month will start from the first day of the calendar month and end with the last day of the calendar month. So for example, January will be always starting from 1 and ending in 31. So is the case for March and other month. But in certain companies, the requirement that it will start from say last Friday of the month, and or it can start from the first Friday of the month and end in the last Friday of the month. So that way they maintain their calendar. So it is also possible to configure SAP based on that kind of a requirement. So in this instance, our requirement is that of calendar year. And once I define this, I'll assign it to a company code. So my company code is 16. And you see, I have assigned this fiscal year variant K4. So if I go back and open this, and select K4 here. So this is a calendar year, okay? So which means it will follow Jan to December, and it will follow the calendar month 1 to 31, 1 to 30, 1 to 29, whatever it is, depending upon leap year or non-leap year. So the document fiscal year is then controlled by how I'm defining it in the configuration. Similarly, the document type, if you have to see, so I define document type. I go to SA. So this is the GL account posting. Now here there is a control that it will always follow certain number range. So I enter 16, and since 01, so it will always follow this range. Okay, let me go back to this document, and the number is 10043. So if you see, it is within this range that SAP has allocated the document. And the number in status, this is the last number that was posted for this 01. So SAP has also recorded it. And this is internally generated. If there's a requirement to external generate, you have to select this. But I would not prefer externally determined number range, because from a control perspective, it's not a good choice. I'd rather prefer system generate so that it is sequential, and also there is a better control on the number range. So the document type SA is linked with number range 01, and it will determine a specific number for document. Sorry. Within the number range which has been defined. And the account types that can be used are asset, customer, vendor, material, GL account can be used. But from a control perspective also, you can define this. Maybe if you think that this won't be used for material or customer, you can remove it. And that way you can have defined controls for document type. So other thing which you saw was the posting key. If you see this document,
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Can I make a request to you?
Yeah, sure. Tell me.
I want to see the display document in whole my laptop, so I can read all particulars given in column wise. Because what happened now, half screen is your and half screen of you, what you are showing on the SAP SAP. Can it take
I think there is an option to maximize the screen, and also there is an option where you can hide the thumbnail video, so that way you will have a complete view of the screen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So this is the posting key 40, which stands for debit. And that is also coming from configuration. So if I come to 40, with this one example, I'm trying to show you how SAP is controlling the transactions. At the end, you are, as an auditor, auditing controls. Okay, so 40 will always, because this is a radio box, not a check box. It can either debit or credit. So it is debiting. And it will only be used for one account type, which is general ledger account. So there is a control. So based on the posting key, there is a control based on the document type. So, and then of course, fiscal year and those settings, they all control the transaction that is getting posted and recorded. So it is not possible that something which should have been posted to a general ledger gets posted to a sub ledger, because your posting key will not allow it. Your sub ledgers are customer, vendor, and assets, but they are not selected for posting key 40. And posting key 40 is used for general ledger account, which will have a document type SA. So all this is controlled within SAP to minimize, or rather to prevent any mistakes from happening by even those who are not experienced in SAP. At the most, SAP will give you an error. It will not allow you to post something wrong. Okay, and we can we'll look at some of the errors as we go forward. Okay, so this is one document, but it has the company code which comes from configuration. I'll also show you the company code. Sorry. So this message says that it is logged by user and can be displayed. So SAP will not allow multiple people to do configuration in the same table. Though in transaction, it does not have that kind of a lock. You can, multiple users can do transaction at the same time. So I want to just display, so I'll say yes. So this is my company code setting. The chart of account is INT, and the fiscal year variant is K4, which is what I had shown. This is where SAP is controlling the fiscal year determination at the document level. Okay, and this chart of account will control the accounts that I can select. If I select an account which is not defined in this chart of account, then it will stop me.
Hello?
So, yeah.
Hello, yeah. Hi.
Hello. Okay, so this is one thing which I wanted to show to you from a FICO module. Now let me take you into another area, which will be, I will take you into a whole business process. So I've said here that business process actually integrates across different modules depending upon how that business process is defined. So take example of a procure to pay process where you'll create a purchase order based on the purchase requisition by department to procure material, and then you will receive the warehouse will receive the material. After the material is received by the warehouse, it will be accounted in finance, right? So invoice will be accounted, and then the vendor will be paid. So that is just one sequence in the business process. So let me go to ME21N and create a purchase order. So I am selecting a vendor. Right now, let me not take my company code for a moment to show you how SAP is behaving. So it has accepted this, but now it is asking me that you should enter your purchase organization. Okay. Now within SAP, I've said that there is an enterprise structure. In this diagram, I'll put it here, enterprise structure. So my company has a purchase department that caters to procurement of the plant. And it is possible that my group has multiple plants, and there is one purchasing department centralized that is catering to that plant. Okay. So this is the enterprise structure where I will define the purchase organization. Okay. If I'll first define the purchase organization, and then I will assign it. So this is how I will build a relationship. So I want to create a relationship between my purchase organization and my company code. So you see this, my purchase organization is related with company code 0016. So since I want to procure for my company code, I will enter 0016. And by default, it has taken 0016 because of this configuration, which I had shown you in the enterprise structure. But remember again, this is at the transaction level within the metals, within the purchasing in SAP. So within logistics submodule. So right now I'm not in accounting module, I'm in logistics, and I'm in this section. It's in purchasing, I'm in purchase order. And I'm using one of these T codes, ME21, and to create. So this is also a transaction that I'm doing. So now it is forcing me to enter a purchase group because it has been made a mandatory field. So I can click here and I can select the purchase group, press enter. So now again, it is checking vendor 1098 has not been created for purchase organization 0016. Okay, so this vendor should have been created for my purchase organization 0016, which has not been done. So what I have to do is, basically what I was trying to do is I was trying to take vendor which has been created for some other company code or some other purchase organization. So now I will take it for my company code. So now it has allowed me. So SAP is doing this check so that if by mistake you even enter a wrong data, which is not related with your company code. Let's say if you are working in a multiple company code or legal entity environment, you have got 10 company codes. So there is a lot of chances of error happening where a transaction of one company code gets posted in some other company code. And then once people find out, they will make a transfer entry, right? Adjustment entry. That is not needed because SAP will keep a control on all these entries, making sure that you are entering at the right place. So now I have to enter a material. I will take this material, press enter. So now it is saying no procurement defined for metal 100-120. So purchase organization is not responsible for plant 0016. So now it is checking whether the earlier it checked whether the purchase org and company code are related or not. And also the vendor is related with this purchase org and company code combination. Now it is checking whether the plant I've entered here is related with this purchase organization. So I'll go to my config. Now is place where I'll show you that I'm making a change in the assignments. So I have to make a change here and to see whether my purchase org is related with the plant. So my purchase log is 0016, and there is no entry here for that. So I'll make a new entry. So what I'm doing now is called configuration. So it is not customizing. I'm just configuring. Okay, and I'll save it. Now, once I save, then SAP prompts me for this customizing request. I can say, and save this. Now SAP will keep a track of this customizing request, and it gets registered in my name. So now it's asking me to enter an order quantity. I'll enter 12. This is a surprising entry because it is possible. This system is actually used by a large number of users for training purpose. And it is possible that someone has made some change somewhere, and which is why it is impacting my work, and it is stopping me from doing this transaction. Because I did this transaction yesterday and it worked fine. Let me check what is happening. So let me go to the Metal Master. Okay. So it's like someone has deleted the metal type. Let me, how much time we have? Okay, let me just quickly try this, or else I can show you a display also. I have one ready. Can you please put on mute?
1,02,000 GST.
Okay, it should work now. Let us see. Otherwise, I'll show you the display. It's actually not needed. So till the time I correct this, it is not going to let me create a purchase order. So what SAP is doing is basically it is looking at different settings within different modules and saying whether I have done correctly or not. Now this is coming account assignment category is because like I said, someone has made some change because of which it forced me to enter this, but it is wrong because I don't want to enter the account assignment category. So what I will do is I want to show you this same thing. Can you please mute? Okay. So I'll run an account statement and I'll show you how do I go into this. So this is a financial statement which can be structured the way user want. I want to go to this account, GRI claim 191100. So I'll go into another session and /n, so it will go back to the main menu. And from here I can select the account, or I can take FS10M. Okay, general ledger and accounts. So this is a GRR account, which means it's a good received invoice. It's a liability account. I'm seeing one entry here where the debit has been made to inventory raw material account and credit to a liability. Now there is a difference here which has been put to loss price variance account. If you come to this header, you'll see it is a good receipt. And this is MKPA, which means it's a material document. So the earlier document which I had shown you was an accounting document, and this one was a general ledger type. But here you see this is a difference, and you can identify different transactions based on this. This transaction has not originated in finance. It has originated in warehouse, and from warehouse through business process integration, it has flown into FI. So we'll see that. So I go to environment and I'll show you the all the document. So I can show you the entire trace. So this is the metal document that was generated and which got generated the accounting document. I can come to purchase order data and go to this purchase order. Okay, so this purchase order, I ordered the same material. It allowed me because at that time the configurations were correct. Now someone has changed it. Anyways, in the same way I was making this purchase order. And if you come to purchase order history, it says that this material has been received and there's an invoice receipt also that has happened. So when you click on this material receipt, you come to this material document. It is generated at the warehouse. So warehouse person entered this, said that he has received this material in this plant and this storage location. He did not do anything else, but behind the scene, SAP posted a FI document. And this is the FI document that has been posted, which I had shown you earlier. And you see no vendor is appearing here because in the initial stage, vendor is not accounted. It is the GRIR which carries the liability. Okay. And now we will see the invoice verifications part. So you go back to the purchase order. And this is the document which has been posted. If you can see, it has been posted with reference to a purchase order. Okay. And with reference to the material. So specific material. So this verification will do a three-way test. It will look at the purchase order. It will look at the good received, look at the quantity, and then only it will post. If there is a difference, if you are entering a higher quantity than what has been received, then SAP will post a variance. It is also possible to have a system configured that it gives you an error message if there is a difference in quantity. So all those possibilities are there. And if you click on the follow-on document, it will give you the accounting document. And where it has credited the vendor. So GRIR has been debited. Okay, and see all this GRIR has been debited. And the credit has gone to the creditor. And so from creditor, then the payment can be made and the account can be settled. So the whole procure to pay cycle works this way. Let me go to my slide back and show you the next slide, which is on risk in SAP environment. So what we have done today is we have looked at two different transactions. One where it was only FICO involved, but second where FICO and MM were involved, where the warehouse is receiving material based on the purchase order created by purchase department, and the finance department is accounting for the invoice. So there were a lot of controls that we have seen, and which makes us think that what should we audit then in SAP environment. But you must have observed that seamlessly I was doing all the transactions. I did the configuration. I can create the plant. I can create purchase organization. I can create company codes. I can create fiscal year variants. I can create chart of account. I can create vendor account. I can do transactions. So if I am the user who is working in a real, in a live corporate SAP environment, it will be a big red flag. It is just that this is a training system. So it's okay for me to work with such a kind of access where I have complete access to SAP. So I can do anything I want in this. But in corporate system, segregation of duty is very important. This is one way you can do a test. Even if you are not a technical auditor, you don't understand the roles, because roles are also very technical. It will take you some time to understand. But you can definitely sit with a user and see what he's doing. And where are the controls happening? Where are the checks and balances, right? So if the checks and balances show you that, yeah, there is a segregation of duty, then you're comfortable. If it is not, then there are definitely excess rules which have been assigned to the user and he is able to do things which he should not have done. For example, if I am someone who is responsible for vendor accounting, then I should not be able to create a purchase order. And if I'm an end user, then I should not be able to do configuration, right? So it is only the IT department that should do the configuration, and end users should do the transaction. So what I had shown, there was no segregation of duty. I am the only person who is doing everything. And so I can actually create a company and I can do many things which may lead to a misstatement from an audit perspective. The second is standard versus customization. What I had shown you is a standard system. It is not customized. I have configured it based on whatever options SAP has given me. And still you see SAP is stopping me at each and every point. Wherever I am not doing correct, SAP stops me. So there are so many controls built. Almost all the processes which a typical global company would like to have are built into SAP. Most of the regulations, they are met by SAP, but still, business users, they come up with requirement to IT that, we need this. We had a previous system which used to give us this kind of ease. SAP is not giving. So, IT department is also forced to do customize. And that is called RISE-FW. RISE-F means reports, interface, conversions, enhancements, forms, and workflows. These are customized, which means you will need to use programming to create these reports. You will say why there is a risk with a report that has been customized. The standard SAP reports, if you generate, like F.01, which I had shown you, is used in all the companies wherever SAP has been implemented. And there are like 50,000 to 100,000 companies. And so it has been tested, thoroughly. All the bugs in those reports have been corrected by SAP. So there are no risk, almost no risk with those reports. But when a report is built grounds up using coding, many things can go wrong, especially the way if the person who's coding is not experienced to understand the business process, and if there's a complex report, then he may not be able to bring the data correct from different tables. So SAP has a myriad of tables behind. So this poses a big challenge. And then it is also possible that the way he has coded is going into loop and taking a lot of time to execute, which is consuming a lot of system time. And the report is not properly tested, then this vulnerability becomes a real risk, because the issues in report development could have been caught with a very thorough testing. But if the testing is not done right, then the development will go into production system. And when it goes to the production system, it will be used by auditors, it will be used by CFO, it will be used by top management for taking decisions, or it may be used by end user for their day-to-day operations. And so they are going to take wrong decisions based on those reports. So that way, the standard is very much reliable. And the other point to note is that whenever SAP does an upgrade, the upgrade happens only for standard object. And so there is a special attention to be paid by the technical staff for those RISE-FW objects. And if proper care is not taken, then you may lose a lot of those objects which have been customized. The next is the change control. So change control is, like I have done configuration. It is not customization, it is configuration. Still, it needs to be tested thoroughly. So to do the testing, SAP has a standard suggestion to have this kind of landscape design, where the development server will be used for development. So whatever configuration I have done with the metal type or the purchase organization plant, it will be done in the development server, and then it will be transported. So if you remember, SAP was recording whatever configuration change I was making. So it has all that available here. If you do /n SE10, so customization for Jayesh, deletion of purchase organized segment to plant. So SAP has recorded all this IMG activity. No, right? It is in this table that I have made the change. And there's a table, this is the specific object. No, this number will actually be able to identify the exact object where I have made the change, exact field. So this will have to move to quality server where the end user or the power user will do the testing, and that testing has to be thorough. That testing will involve scenario-based testing, negative testing to make sure that the development I have done is correct. Once it is signed off, then only it moves to the production server. So this process should be followed. When you are auditing, it is important that you audit this process. Now, this process should be documented with proper segregation duties, with proper review done before the sign-off is done to move it to production system. And that will be a big role for auditors. And then disaster recovery and business continuity. Don't think that just because it is a SAP system, the backend will be always well managed and nothing will happen. There'll be no risk or disaster happening in SAP system. It may not be down suddenly. It is possible that a small bug which moved to production because it was not properly tested will completely pull down the SAP system, or it will create conflict in the production system and it will stop many of the deliveries to the customers. So your business will come to a standstill. So it is very important to make sure that there is a disaster recovery and business continuity plan, so that there is a mirror image available from where you can recover the system if there is any issue. And there is a plan B in place for business continuity in case if some disaster has to happen, then at least business does not stop. So all the critical transaction can still be executed. So that part has to be there in the business continuity plan. So I think I covered this. I tried to cover small piece of SAP in this 1.5 hour time, and not try to burden you with a lot of information. But whatever we have seen from a control perspective, from an audit perspective, what are the controls in place in SAP, and what more you can do as an auditor. So open it for your questions. If you've got any question, I'll be glad to respond.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, Mahavir here. Sir, I have a question related to the foreign currency transactions.
Yes.
While reporting the foreign currency transaction, as we know, for the first time we recognize foreign currency transaction at initial date, on the date of transaction rate foreign currency, and then we reinstate at a balance sheet date.
Right.
So, sir, for every foreign currency transaction, we have to configure that configuration has to be done for the exchange rate for every transaction or not?
Okay, so I'll show you. So it is currency is never configured for transaction. Transaction happened by dates. Every day you have transactions, and that is where you will maintain the exchange rates. This is the exchange rate tables which is maintained, and this can be maintained by dates. To see the date. So there's a conversion from USD to INR. Okay, and it is on 8/12/21 for the exchange rate type. specific, but we are using exchange rate type M. Okay. So for that exchange rate, when the actual transaction happens, it happens for the exchange rate type M. And SAP will pick up the rates from this table. The rates which is put here as the last date will be picked up for the transaction. So if you are updating your system daily using a integration with Bloomberg or some other terminal, then your transaction booking in the foreign exchange will happen based on the daily rates. But if you are not doing it daily, then you must be having some frequency, like you might be doing monthly or weekly. So then exchange rate conversion, exchange rate booking will happen based on that. At the end of the month, when you do your reporting, you need to report it at an average rate, or as on the last day of the month, or on average rate. So there are certain transactions in SAP for foreign exchange rate conversion for balance sheet reporting that you will have to execute. Once you execute those transactions, then the difference will be booked as a foreign exchange gain or loss.
Sir, is there any report from where I can get all these rates in one shot in Excel?
There is no standard report that I know, but it can be built. It is not a difficult thing to do.
Okay. Similarly, sir, in auditing, most of the times we are dependent on a client for getting vendor masters and client masters.
Right.
So is there any report from where we can directly take the extract of the master database on our own?
So this exchange rate can be pulled out in an Excel file. Okay, so I pulled out this. It can also be made like a report to pull out, or you can pull it out from here also. Yeah, your second question was regarding the vendor master and customer master.
Yes.
Right. So you want to know whether you can pull out data for vendor master and customer master.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So there are reports within SAP. If you go to say accounting and financial accounting, I've not shown many reports because of paucity of time. But if you go to here, go to reporting, or maybe information systems, master data, and the vendor list. Okay, so 0016. So this is the vendor which is there in the company code 0016. So you can actually take this standard report, or so Hindustan Industries Limited, and or you can also develop of your own. There are further selections you can give, whatever you want to give. Then data payment data you can select. Okay, then it will show you all this data. But I know this is not a very good report from a downloading perspective. So you may not be able to download it like a proper columnar way you want to see. So then you'll have to develop a report, which is not going to take much time to do.
I'll have to design a layout to download this report in a proper Excel format.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And if I
or maybe if your client or your company would already be having some Z reports where someone must have had requirement and they might be already having a report. So you don't need to develop anything. You can just run that report and download the data in an Excel file. Or if you're happy with this output, you can also use this.
Okay, got it. And if I want to download the segregation of duties, basically authority metrics from SAP, I mean, who has rights to PO, who has rights to payment, who has rise to GRN booking. So is there a report from SAP where I can download it?
Yes. So there are many reports for this security part. And before you run any report, it requires you to have a very deep understanding of how the roles are designed. Because in any SAP installation, there can be hundreds of roles.
Okay.
And there's a very complex structure behind the roles. Because using roles, you may get down to each transaction. Within transaction, there can be objects like a company code that you might like to restrict. So, and even there can be a restriction for field. So that makes the whole this part very, very complex. So it is always better to spot. See, even if you have a 100,000 line of data, you are not going to make anything out of it. First thing is, as an auditor, you have to identify the area of risk and then explore it further. So once you identify that, yeah, there's certain roles are vulnerable, or they may have issues, you can look at it instead of running a complete report, because complete report will give you so much of data that it may not be of any use to you.
But I can directly run report, or will I have to be asking the client for the configuration and then they'll run the report and share it with us?
Yeah, so that is because as an auditor, you may not have all the access to system.
Okay.
Okay, you may have very limited access. So you may have to ask someone from IT. In fact, for anything related to roles, it is good to collaborate with a SAP security consultant.
Okay.
Even a FICO consultant will not have a good idea about the roles. Okay. Right. In SAP, there are different professionals. So you have a basis and security professional who take care of all the security and roles related aspect. So if you are want to audit security related area, then you work with them.
Okay.
So understand the landscape, how the roles are designed, and what is the process of assigning those roles. And then you can select your audit procedure to figure out whether there is any vulnerabilities.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Like one question that regarding control, who have the control over to change or addition of in control? Some word is defined is there in SAP. Who has the access of to see the control chain?
Yeah, you're talking about change control?
Sorry?
You're talking about change control?
Yeah.
Okay. So change control is a process where the consultant will do development in the development server, move it to quality, where it will be tested by a set of power users, and then it will be moved into the production system. Okay, so each of these places, there are roles defined. Who can do the development, who can move from development to quality, and from quality to production. So you have to identify those roles and see who are the people who have been assigned those roles.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sir, can you throw some line on open item reconciliation part?
Yes. So open line reconciliation, so I understand open item, but what you want to understand on the open item reconciliation?
Yes, because there are when we are doing the audit, so there are a lot of open items, and the client says that we are unable to adjust. So, what are the challenges when we are reconciling the open item?
So, what is that specific account where client is saying they cannot adjust?
There are basically so many GLs which where there are legacy issues. For example, the SAP has been migrated from the earlier system.
Right.
So there are some items which are there at the beginning.
Yes.
They're not yet settled.
Correct.
In various GL, it is all GL basically.
Right. And again, these issues will be very company specific. So you'll have to get down into, so maybe you pick up sample of the issue, because when SAP is migrated, at that time you will migrate the open items. Open item basically means what you owe to vendor and your customer by each and every line item or by each and every invoices. Okay.
Correct.
Whatever has been settled is a clear item. Okay. And we will not migrate the clear item. We will only migrate the open items. Now, the challenge comes when the open item total should always match with what is the balance in the vendor and customer account. So let's say the vendor X balance is 1 lakh rupees, and the total of the vendor open item is say 1,20,000. So this will never match, right? So what SAP does is it will transfer it to a balancing account, so that the open trial balance tallies, and you have to check that particular migration account where the balance has been transferred. Okay, so basically you'll have to do some sample test to see what has been issues in the migration. Why usually it should tally. There is no reason why it should not tally, because before migration we will do a test of completeness to see that the vendor balances and the open items, they always tally.
In open items, suppose there are some debit and same item, same amount, everything is debit and credit is also there, but still they are showing as open items. So how we can adjust that?
Yeah, so open item is because those items have not been paid or settled with the vendor or customer.
No, it has been paid. There is debit entry and there is credit entry as well.
Right. So in that case, they will have to clear. Okay. So in SAP, there is
explain that process if it is possible.
Yeah. So there are transactions within each module of clearing the account.
Yeah.
So at that time we will select that account. So I'll just show you. Go to accounts payable. So this is clearing, right? So you will select this transaction, and when you'll select an open item. So when you click this, it will provide you with various parameters. Maybe you want to select it based on posting date or by different parameters. So it will then bring up those items. You select what are the items to be set off, the debit and the credit items, and it will make it 0, and you post it. So it will then knock off. It should get knocked off. There is no issue from a technical perspective. But like I said, it is a very company specific issue. You'll have to pick a few items as an audit sample and check with your client why it is pending. What is the reason?
Okay, thank you.
So do you have a training course of audit in SAP environment? Right now I have a course where I've been talking about controls in SAP environment, which is here. And you can go through this content. I may, I'm thinking of adding a few extra hours to this and make it also extend it for auditors. So maybe in next few weeks, I will come up with this kind of a course which will combine these two and will be right mix for auditors. So can you recommend a book or material for internal audit in SAP environment? Of that, I don't know any such books. Maybe Google out. I've been reading more of many blogs. And so there are some good blogs which you can find when you do a Google search. And you can read through those blogs. That will be very useful. And if they recommend any book, you can look at the review of those books and see whether you want to buy those books. So open item adjustments, we have already done.
Okay, any more questions?
So we were, SAP version, we were looking at ECC 6. And it was EHP 7 version.
Sir, can we have any exceptional report in SAP SAP by default is sharing?
So I have not covered it as part of this because of the limitation of time. There are a lot of reports which will give you some traffic lights where you can see the exceptions. Even in the and there are certain add-on products also in SAP for auditors, which gives you some of those exceptions reporting.
Okay.
But maybe in some of the future programs, I will try to bring up some of the reports.
But can you share that window where we can see that?
So you have to go by each and every module. For example, if you are looking at, say, accounts payable, then what kind of exception you are looking at, and then you can put it as a parameter. For example, so if you run a report for open item, accounts payable, so there are many of these due date analysis for open items. You can also execute list of vendor line items. So it will give you item by vendor. I don't know whether this will have any. Yeah. So now, if you want to analyze this, you can also change the layout, and you can select the fields here. So it's like most of the fields have been selected, but you can look at the fields that you want to select based on which you want to analyze this report. The other is you can also come here and see whether you are looking at parked document or standard documents, or you are further, like, your reconciliation account. You can also select here other parameters. So, and then there is this box, I think, dynamic selections. Is it working? The dynamic selection provides further criteria. It's not working here, but then if it works, then you can take. Okay, no, it is there in this report itself. So you can get more selection criteria. But like I said, if this report does not meet your requirement, then you may have to look for a customized report. If your client already has a customized report, then you don't need to request for. Maybe try to see what kind of reports they have and audit that. That will be much better, because if there are any issues with the report, you can also cover it as part of your audit report. That the reports based on which the client is taking decision is also has issues. So each and every, it depends on what you really want to analyze. You can go into the individual module, say accounts payable, account receivables, general ledger, and if you are looking at metals management, there are a lot of reports within this, each of these. So you can also run reports in their information systems reporting. A lot of these reports you can run based on your requirement. Okay, so if don't have any question, then I think we can wrap this. And thanks a lot, all of you. Yes. So, Namrata?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the amazing session, and also encouraging members and sharing honest views on the questions posted. And thank you for willing to take question till 12:30. Privileged to have you as a speaker in today's meeting. Looking forward to have more sessions with you, Jayesh ji.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Great.
to all the participants for making this event a successful event. The recording is there on YouTube. If you would like to revisit, do revisit. And if you have any further questions, we would like to schedule a session on SAP in future soon. Thank you.
Right. And if you got any feedback, you can post it here. Even for future session, if you have any suggestion for topic, you can put it so I can also include it for future sessions.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, all of you.